An inky blackness surrounded me, almost as touchable as the line of girls who waited in the darkened hall. Slippered feet that would stick to the cold linoleum with each step. Nervous murmurs from those ahead and behind me assaulted my ears. As I shifted from foot to foot, my fingers clung to one another, while my sweaty palms gripped each other behind my back. The door at the end of the hall whispered open, and slivers of light slipped through along with the airy strains of a piano. The scratchy sound of nylon-covered legs and bouncing tutus when the line darted forward towards the opening. Each echoing step became muted when they reached the wooden floor of the stage's wing. Balanced on the balls of my feet, I glanced around the space. Through the broken pillars of curtains I could see the stage. I caught flashes of pointed toes, graceful arms, and fluttering skirts before the music glided to a halt and the young women on stage followed in kind. The sound soon changed into a thunderous applause that filled the room with a crescendo of noise. The women on stage then took a bow before they filtered off the stage in an organized manner. The girls with me flowed quickly on stage to take their place. As I took each step, butterflies filled my stomach to the brim. Each flutter of their wings made the next step harder, less connected to the one before it, until I stood stuck on the spot assigned to me, as if nails were embedded in my feet to fasten me in place. My eyes were like saucers as I looked out onto a sea of blackened and unfamiliar faces. The makeup caked on my face seemed to freeze there, turning my face to stone that slid downwards, locking me in place. A single note rang out from the piano, piercing in its purity. The stone that encased me cracked before it shattered in the wake of the music's start. As if someone had pressed play, I moved. I twirled. I leapt. I danced. My hands and feet flew through the movements to mirror those of the girls around me. Tension slipped away, until only tension, practiced and perfected, remained in the lines my arms and legs created. Each step I took felt as if it floated inches above the floor. A smile grew on my painted lips with every whirl of movement. The joy of the dance overwhelmed me and swept me into its flow. When the last notes petered off into the distance, I slowed and came to a halt with the rest of the girls. My breath came in quick pants that shook and rattled my chest. While I stared out into the palpable darkness with wide eyes, my elated grin frozen on my features. For a moment, silence reigned, a pregnant pause that seemed to last a lifetime, only to be broken suddenly by a single set of hands beginning to clap before the room erupted with the deafening sound as person after person joined in. As one, the girls and I dipped down into our bows, only to be hurried, nearly skipping off the stage, aching legs and joints ignored in a vibrant celebration of joyful success. Being on stage has always been special for me. Every moment out in the stage lights is magical. Every performance a completely new and unique experience. Each second spent in front of a crowd is different. Sometimes it feels as if in that moment things are flowing in a way that appears effortless. Other moments are jerky, seeming to be tied together through sheer stubbornness. More are spent in a joyful revelry, matched only by the smiles and laughter that that second creates. Every performance is a time when my worries can slip away. Every performance is a time when every feeling of despair is pushed down a drain by a waterfall of joy. Every performance is a time when the rage I feel is dropped in a pit of cold water that sucks it under, and it feels as if I will never see it again. Every performance is a time when my apathy is erased and I can act unhindered by the lead that weighs me down. Every performance is a time when I can feel the elation of simply being free.
I was walking down the long, narrow hallway. I stopped because I recognized the smell. It was like a musky, bitter, dark smell. I tried to brush it off and not think too much of it, but the smell was too overpowering. The white door was cracked open, so I peeked my eye through. One tight shoestring around his tattooed arm, the end of it in his mouth. A needle being pushed through his light blue vein with a piece of tinfoil next to him. Watching him doze off like it was the best feeling in the world. I walked away. My eyes slowly drooped down. I knew exactly what he was doing. I was so hurt. I wanted to erase that image from my head. Until this day, he never knew I saw him like that. It's not like I haven't seen it before, because we all grew up around people doing drugs. But I never thought my big brother would become an addict. Rob, my oldest brother, who took care of me when my mom was too tired from working. He never let me down before all this started to happen. I looked up to him more than anyone around me. He's taught me so much about family and how life is a journey. He barely lets his dark brown beard grow out. When he does, we call him a disciple because he looks like someone from the Bible. He's known as Quick Mouth around the house. Everyone knows he can get anything he wants with his slick words. He has a very raspy voice. People assume that's because he smokes so many cigarettes, but it's always been that way since he was a kid. Every day I would worry about him. Every time he walked out the door, I would wonder if that was the last time I'd ever see him again. I hated the days when we hadn't heard from him, not knowing if he was okay or not. The worst days were when his body was shaking, head so sweaty, and leaning over the toilet puking his insides out. My little sister always asked me why he'd get sick so much. I knew it was because he was having withdrawals. Of course she didn't know that, so I just told her he gets sick easily. I missed him more than I could ever put in words. I would look back and wish I could go back to the late night talks and eating cinnamon rolls with a glass of milk at 2 in the morning. The hardest thing for me was that I couldn't help him. I couldn't make him go to rehab. I couldn't make him stop doing drugs. One day I got a phone call from my mom, telling me that Rob was missing and nobody could find him. Everyone thought the worst, that maybe someone finally got to him for ripping them off, or maybe he overdosed somewhere. About a week later, we found out that he got arrested. We were so relieved and we all found out. When I went to go visit him, it was so hard seeing him on the other side of a thick glass window. I couldn't hug him and only got to talk to him for a short amount of time. The only thing we could do is set our palms on the cold window and smile at each other. I always have to remember that it's the best for him to be in there. Knowing that my brother's locked up, I don't have to worry about him doing drugs. Not only that, but I like knowing that my brother isn't somewhere hungry and wearing the same clothes he's been wearing for the past months. We had to stop visiting because we didn't have enough money to make trips. So Rob and I decided to write each other as much as possible. He came up with an idea that we should send rhymes to each other. He'd give me 2 words to rhyme, and then I would give him 2 words to rhyme. Here's the last one I wrote. I see everyone doing all right while I'm here trying to hold on tight, trying to hold on to this little thing called light, hoping something might just go right. I keep telling myself everything will be all right. Damn, if only I was right. Until then, I'll keep holding on to this light, dreaming of what it's like to be all right.
This is honestly quite difficult for me to speak about, because I end up feeling like I'm complaining and oversharing about my own personal problems. But I'm lucky. I don't have to face much adversity in my life, so this is really my only option to speak about. I'm just unsure if I had to do anything resilient to get through my epilepsy. To be frank, it worked itself out in time. All I had to do was wait. Maybe it was the waiting that some people would think is resilient. But the fact is, I did nothing except tough through most of my struggle. It wasn't a strike of resilience. It was just me doing what I had to do. How could I give up in a situation like that? Something I didn't ask for came down on me, and I was going to fight this bastard off if it didn't get fixed soon. But there was a point where I couldn't fight it anymore. This was genetic. There was nothing I had done that had caused it, and there was nothing I could have done about it, not alone. When I fell in the shower was the first time my parents found out there was something seriously wrong with me. I had known about it for months before this. At first it was just my arms jerking if I woke up with little sleep. My brother saw it happen to me once, but I shrugged it off and told him I had flinched. Then it was the full upper body spasms that would make me gasp for air. After that was when the falling started. I would lose control of my upper body and my legs, losing consciousness for moments at a time. I can remember a time when I was on the floor, unable to get up into my bed without falling over. That was a low point. But I was too damn proud or stoic to tell my family what was wrong. Either that or I was too scared to find out what it really was. For nearly a year, I had to deal with the fact that my body was not on my side every morning. I pushed myself through all the tests that they put me through, visited numerous doctors on the orders of my neurologist. Following the longest months of my life, we were finally able to find one amazing doctor that gave me a concise diagnosis. After a long night of tests, he came to me and told me with confidence that I had epilepsy. Now that I think about it, I'm probably one of the happiest people to ever be diagnosed with epilepsy. I was just relieved that I finally knew what it was, and more importantly, that I could finally seek treatment. No more back and forth visits to my neurologist. I could finally go to school in the morning. The doctor that gave me my diagnosis was able to prescribe me medication that would be 100% effective. If it worked as expected, and I continued to take it when I was supposed to, then I could never have another seizure in my life. To be honest, it's a fairly fantastic trade-off to go from constant unknown symptoms every morning to no symptoms at all after taking 2 pills at night. I figure that's a testament to modern medicine. It's almost like a bureaucracy. 8 months of exceedingly long, drawn-out bullshit, leading up to a lackluster but necessary conclusion. A lot of the time, when people overcome a sudden, out-of-the-blue illness, they tend to say something along the lines of, "I feel like I'm a stronger person now." Or some other phrase they say not so other people can hear it, but so they can convince themselves that they didn't just have multiple years of their lives robbed from them. I didn't feel any of that. I couldn't kid myself like all the other people that lived their lives thinking that a disease or genetic problem made them a stronger-willed person. I would love to have that year of my life back, but that time is long gone by now. I didn't overcome anything. I just did what I had to do.
My mom. She was always looking for adventure. She would take my siblings and me on trips out of nowhere all the time. One night, we were all bored sitting around the house. Everyone was doing their own thing. Me in my room, my siblings in their rooms, and my mom in the living room. That night, we all had something in common. We were doing nothing. It was about 9:00 p.m., and my mom yelled up the stairs, "Get your shoes on, we're leaving." We left the house around 9:30 p.m. We spent 3 hours at the coast doing nothing, but it was everything, because it didn't matter what we were doing, as long as we were together. We were running from the water, the sand cold and soft under our feet, the sound of the waves crashing on the sand, and a dark beach lit up by the moon. The perfect way to end a boring day. My mom. She was an amazing friend and an even better mother. She was shorter than me. She had long, curly, dirty blonde hair. She always wore it in a bun. And she had hazel eyes and loved to wear baggy clothing. My mom. She loved to collect ceramic masks and fabric dream catchers. She had around 10 dream catchers and dozens of masks. She hung them all above her bed. Anytime I walked into the room, I felt like 1,000 pairs of eyes were constantly watching me. My mom. She meant the world to me. She still does. But she had a really bad taste in men. My mom had this boyfriend, and he was a really bad guy. He was controlling, abusive, physically and mentally, and he was always angry. We tried to get away from him for years by secretly filling out housing applications and saving up money. We had finally gotten him out of our lives, but we still couldn't find a new place to live. So I missed school for about 3.5 months because I didn't want to leave my mom home alone. We eventually found a house to move into, and so we did. I started school again, and my mom started smiling again. Everything was going perfect. Our life was being put back together until March 5th, 2015. My mom. That was the morning she didn't wake up. This brought my family and me so much closer. My family and I went to my mom's favorite restaurant for dinner. It's called Pop's. It's a Western-style diner. We were ordering food, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a little old lady. She was laughing, and for a brief second, I heard my mom's laugh and saw my mom smile through the lady. At that moment, I realized something. I wasn't sad anymore. I had just realized no matter where I am, she's with me in my heart. My mom. She is my inspiration, my motivation, my everything. Of course, at first, the situation weakened me. But as I thought about who my mom was and how she raised me, I know she would want me to be strong. So that's what I'm doing. All my mom wanted me to do was graduate high school. I use her as my motivation every day. I do everything I can to make her proud. She inspired me to be exactly like her because she was so full of spirit and joy, and nobody could have taken that away from her. There is a hero to every story, and she's the hero in mine.